Spook,
Yes.
people accuse us of being too critical.
Do they?
Yeah, so today we're going to cross to the other side, to the other view of Collingwood supporters.
Oh, this will be good. I enjoy a good Collingwood supporter chat.
So let's cross by satellite to these Collingwood supporters. How do you feel the season's going? Do you think Collingwood will be able to repair their season?
What do you think of Buckley's coaching performance this year? Is Mason Cox too tall for the ruck?
Who do you think should be president of Collingwood? You've got to have some view. Don't you have anything to say about Collingwood?
One thing. Just give us one thing. Well, I guess that does it.
Yep. Welcome to the Collingwood Rant. I'm Sly.
And I'm G. Lamb Tastes Good Spook.
We're coming to you after the loss to West Coast.
I was to say, we're coming to you live.
Yeah, we are coming to you live. So, going into the West Coast game...
Did we lose to West Coast?
What a shock, huh? What a shock we're in the position that we are.
I thought we were top 4 material.
Going into this game, there was a lot of talk in the media about what Buckley needed to do. Mick McGuan and Glenn McFarlane wrote an article, a 13-point blueprint to try and revitalise the Pies. I'll go for it really quickly. Mick McGuan said, got to drop Cox.
That tick.
Swing more into attack.
Tick.
Get the goey one out. All they did was...
They got his nose broken out.
Mix up the rucks. Play Mark Keane in defence.
Tick, tick, tick.
Reinvent Callum Brown as a small defender.
You can't win them all.
Play John Noble as a small pressure forward. Have Greenwood tag Tim Kelly. Bolster the midfield by playing Tyler Brown as an inside mid. Using him on the outside is not his go. McGon says, throw side bottom and Pendle's back at times. Use Dacos' elite skills back on the wing. Back on the wing.
Who would have thought?
Play
maybe
Maynard.
a chicken wing.
Yeah. Play Maynard as the lockdown defender and Quaynor as the rebounder. Play Crisp in the middle more. So that were his points to really sort of make the team more attacking. Buckley took some of that into account. Matt Rendell, who has said a little bit about Collingwood.
He's a happy camper, isn't he?
He's very happy. He said too many of their forwards have just gone backwards because of the way they play. Jeez, why are they paying us to say this stuff? In 218, it was back off the one thing. They took the game on and went quick. If you want examples, fine last year against West Coast, they took the game on and De Goey cut them to ribbons. Then they go slow. They play quick against Carlton, they look dangerous again. Then they go slow. You think the penny would drop, wouldn't you?
No, I wouldn't have thought so.
Rendell said too many kids have lost their way.
Have they?
Yep. So, there's a lot of talk about Buckley's coaching. Finally.
The cat's out of the bag.
Finally, after, I don't know, we've been saying it for about 2.5 years, there's issues with the game plan that's breaking down, the system's breaking down, it's not working, players aren't doing what they were doing in 218, and people thought, no, we're just playing tempo football, we'll mix it up, we'll get it right. Buckley seemed to make a concerted effort to try and be more attacking, put more at full forward. What do you think of that to begin with?
Do you think he was told to do that? Just seems a bit coincidental.
I've been telling you for 2 years, but
no, I sort of
but
feel.
I
mean, look, in the scheme of things, I think along with what Mick said, the correct moves that we've been crying out for a while. I still feel that it's all just a little bit too convenient that it happened this week.
Do you think we would have won if Moore played at fullback or centre half?
No.
Because, I mean, the simplistic view is, Allen kicked 5. If we played Moore down back, he would have stopped him from kicking 5. Of course, we wouldn't have got Moore's 3 goals either. And we lost by whatever we lost by, but we would have won because Moore would have kept Allen. Although Allen kicked, I think, his 3rd goal on Moore at the end of the second quarter. But there is that view that, hey, I mean, that's that really simplistic view of, take this from there and go there. And the game will unfold exactly the same, except...
It's like the mirror universe.
Yep. But Moore looked good for the first quarter and then last quarter. I mean, he kicked 3 goals in the game that I think they dominated. Again, it shows what I've been saying about Cox and other players up forward. Second and third quarter, the ball usage was terrible and Moore didn't get a look in. And it's no fault of Moore's, like it's no fault of the other forwards. It's the delivery going forward. Grundy dropping forward, interesting
Yeah,
to
worked
see him
really well.
take a mark over his head.
I like the way he played angry in that first quarter too. It just like for the first time in a while, it was like, yeah, I'm sick of the criticism. I'm gonna just stick it up a few of you, which is what he should be doing. It's just a pity he couldn't sustain it for much more than that.
If I was playing senior football, I'd be angry all the time.
Angry at them or just angry at yourself?
I'd be angry at the world when I'm playing because
Why not? It's a big place.
I was a great player.
Yeah, no, it was good. I mean, playing him deep. Who was rucking? What's his name?
Darcy
Cameron, that's him. Oh, Cameron Smith, I don't know why that name popped in my head. He battled against Nick Nat.
Well, Nick Nat's
but I don't think he was going to do any better or worse than Grundy.
I was going to say, Nick Nat's a phenom, so I'm not expecting Cameron to start playing like Max Gorn on him.
But that structure up forward there for that first quarter looked really well. They were moving the ball quickly. They looked dynamic. The forward line looked a lot livelier with more. What's that thing that he did? Finding space and leading.
Yeah.
It's just a shame that the people kicking it to him hadn't clicked onto it. But no, it looked a lot more vibrant. But yeah, I don't think it was ever going to be sustainable for 4 quarters. But it was a really good, encouraging start.
But is an encouraging sign that somehow Buckley has rediscovered his 2018 mojo.
No, I don't know. Look, I love the conspiracy stuff, not much at all. But I still think it's all just too coincidental that this started to break down during the week and then pretty much all these moves changed. And the reason why I also feel a little bit in that way inclined is also to that post-match press conference. He was pretty flat in that. Now, obviously, he's flat because they lost. He probably thought they were going to win.
Would have thought he'd be used to it.
But, it just looks like he's a man that's sort of resigned to his fate, like something's been mentioned to him already. That's all I'm reading between the lines at this stage.
I'm just going to say this because, I was talking to people going, oh, this is great, so we need to play, and all that sort of stuff. And it's like, you know what? This is the way they fucking played for 4 years from 2013 to 2017. There'd be moments of brilliance. And you'd go, whoa, this is what he's trying to do. And then it would drop. And then, you'd have a game where, like, they'd kick, have a great opening quarter. I remember once against Geelong, I think they kicked six or seven to begin with. I recall against both Hawthorn and North Melbourne, we were about 6-7 goals down, and then we came back and just overran. It clicks sometimes. But the problem in Buckley's entire tenure, 218 aside, which I'm going to get to in a minute, is it's not sustainable. And I remember an article in 218 where they were talking to Braden Maynard. Maynard's account of what changed at Collingwood is his fourth riders attacking the ball. So this is September 2018, a couple of weeks before the grand final. The Fender felt that the Magpies were a shambles, quote, in 2017 when they didn't really have a defensive game style. He sheeted much of the improvement in behind-the-ball method to new defensive coach Justin Longmuir, whose arrival with Gary Hocking midfield and Matthew Boyd development followed the forensic all-club review by Walsh and interim executive Peter Murphy. In Maynard's telling, Longmire really put a stamp on team defence, which has been the main focus of change. Your offence will look after itself. Asked about how the Pies have played in past years, Maynard added, I just felt like we were a shambles, like we didn't really have a game plan. We didn't really know what we were doing. We weren't really organised. But this year with Justin Longmuir coming in, he's really told everyone that we've got to be organised beyond the ball. You've got to expect the worst. So he's come in and he's helped us a lot. Doesn't that pretty much typify...
It's a ringing endorsement, isn't it?
Yeah, but doesn't that show you exactly what's happened 2019, 2020 and 2021? Under Buckley, for whatever reason, under Buckley, Robert Harvey, Brendan Sanderson, because they're the mainstays. Hocking's no longer there. Longmuir's at Fremantle now. They're looking all right despite their injuries and all that sort of stuff. Under the triumvirate of Buckley, Sanderson and Harvey...
The Holy Trinity.
Yeah. For whatever reason, the unholy Trinity, for whatever reason, they cannot get the team to play sustainable football. And I understand they're going to play 100 minutes of attack, but it just breaks down on them, and then you get like a flash of what could be, but then the bulk is just what we don't want to watch. And, I watched that West Coast game, and like people going, oh, this is encouraging. I just think it's not. It's really just what we saw for 4 years. And what we saw, and we were saying this in 2019. So we were doing this show from 2018. In 2019, we were saying it is breaking down. There's something wrong, and then we were getting criticised for saying that. But if you look back at those seasons, again, they had periods of where they were brilliant, But generally, they were followed by like long patches of just sort of dreary tempo, control freak football.
Oh, look, I did find that quarter encouraging to watch, simply because after the dire, lifeless listlessnesses of the previous weeks, it was good to see what they're capable of. Disappointing that ultimately they couldn't sustain it. But the other thing that added into that too was just seeing the performances of McCleary and McRae in his first game too. And they were encouraging performances too. So you can start to see, look, at some point, we can only drone on for so long, but at some point there has to be a stake in the ground that says this ends and this rebuild has to begin. And that's some of that is what it felt like to me on the weekend. That it just felt like this is what that first step in that direction is now starting to potentially look like. I don't think it's still going to happen with Buckley at the helm next year,
No, it won't.
which is also something that gets you a little bit more keen, no pun intended, to see what is going to be capable or what they can do with this list that they've got under a different direction.
Well, one thing too is, and Malthouse is the master of this. If you look at the 2003 grand final,
Do I have to?
we went into
Why do you
that.
keep bringing this stuff up?
We went into that
Why don't
game.
you give me a nice paper cut and pour lemon juice in it?
We went into that game as favourites. But we had like a side that had guys like Matthew Loken, Tristan
It's
Walker,
for blokes.
Ben Kinnear. You know, he had a side which had a lot of what I'll just call role players. And Malthouse was great at giving them something to do, which was within their capability, getting them to do it and to be part of a whole. And I think under Buckley and Callum Brown, I think is the perfect barometer. In 2018, he had pretty sure hands. He had composure. He has massively gone downhill in 2 years. And I think Buckley just has a lot of players he throws out there and says, go do this. And it might not be their thing. I mean, and you look at Tom Phillips and that Josh Dacos, best examples. Phillips was a really good wingman. Dacos had a breakout year as a wing. Why are you then outplaying him like as defensive forwards? What are you getting out of him there that you feel is adding to the side more than playing them on the wing, where they are actually damaging? So I don't know sort of that Buckley uses the players as well, particularly the young players, as well as he could. And because he doesn't, they really don't develop as well as they should. I mean, that's just sort of from the outside looking in. And that really frustrates me. Mark Keane on Oscar Allen. What do you think of him?
Ooh, the deep end is deep, isn't it? I mean, obviously struggled. I mean, I don't know what you can expect of a second gamer sometimes when you've, like, against, I can't remember who was up against in Freo, but they were in top-notch form and he got shown up a little bit that day and clearly got shown up in this performance too. You don't want to break, well, he's not going to play this week by the sounds of things at any rate, unless they contest that suspension, which I don't think we do that anymore. We just give up, don't we? But you want to see him come back and play a lesser forward line. You know, something that's not going to dominate him, to see what he's capable of. Two, highly marked performances isn't maybe a great indication of where he's at. He gets talked up a fair bit. He obviously plays well at VFL level. Not that we had a VFL comp last year. But there must be something that they see in him that they're encouraged by. But we, from our perspective, aren't seeing it in those the two games he's played.
There's elements of his game that I thought were good. Like, there's a few spoils, a few times he showed his composure. So he was in a defence that was besieged and which lost.
Well, that's a good point.
Which lost Jeremy Howe really early.
Another good point.
Yeah, so he was thrown to the wolves. I don't think Moore actually would have done much better in terms of the way the ball was coming in, the frequency and that, which is why I always argue, why is he playing defence when there's things he's just not going to be able to stop. But there were elements of his game where I thought, okay, I can see a little bit of something there, but they really have to start pumping games into
I think so.
him and Kelly. And
if he wasn't rubbed out, I mean, I don't think there's anyone else really to come in that's been groomed as a defender.
Will Kelly has now been playing in defence in the VFL.
Oh, that's good, because we've had how many years of investment as a forward in him?
Well, about 3/4 apparently.
You must unlearn. Yeah, okay, well, he'll probably come in this week, assuming, again, that they don't contest and clean. But I would have left him in this week, and I would have given him a few more weeks of a run at it to see what's going on. Hopefully they do post the 1 week suspension at any rate. But then again, we'll probably have about 19 more injuries this week, so there's every chance he will. He'll be captaining the side this week and probably coaching at the following.
One of the things Mick McGowan said in his article about the blueprint to, revitalising the Pies, he said, quote, "Bring back the boldness and vitality you played with your coaching as a player." You look at the way Buckley coaches, are you really surprised? I mean, I'm sort of shocked. Every time I look at his teams, they're really dour and... robotic and lacks imagination and flair.
Everything he wasn't as a player.
Yeah, and as a player, he was just so direct and purposeful and dynamic. And I always say to people...
The same with Harvey, too.
Yeah. All I say, Harvey was really underrated as a player. I think he's a two-time Brownlow medalist. Buckley, I always say, he's one of the best players I've seen. To go out, and particularly in that first half of his career when he was playing in a terrible team with a terrible system, and he was getting 30 possessions pretty much every week in a era where they had really hard tags, where players taggers would actually sacrifice their game just to take you out of it, and they'd use whatever means they could to stop you. And he was every week dominating. He's one of the best players I've seen at Collingwood. And when he took over as coach, I go, I wanted to take over as coach. But now, looking back, I think, I can't believe you're that player, but you're this coach. It's Mick Malthouse is a very defensive coach, but instilled more flair within the side than Buckley's done, which is really surprising to me. Or the alternative is, which I think is a contributor also, they're still trying to do something which they've been trying to do from day one, and they're not getting it to click, and they're still trying 10 years in, which is really insane. Still side bottom.
Yeah.
He has not played a good game since the 2018 preliminary final. He's had little moments of, kicking goals here and there, but he has looked like it. To me, again, I'm saying you got to qualify this by saying, yes, he's playing in a poor team at the moment, and he is a link man. He's the sort of player who's going to get fed the ball, so the better the team is, the better he'll be, and the better he'll make the team. But having said that, he really looks like the sort of player who's fallen behind just a step, and that's all that's needed.
It really does look like the game's just passed him by. How old would he be? He'd be 30, 31?
He's 30.
30. He shouldn't be slowing this quickly. You, family, kid, and all that sort of thing.
But he was doing it the last 2 years before the family.
Yeah, I'm trying to find excuses for the poor guy. He did have a better second half. He got into the game, but he's just like a cameo performer at the moment. He just bobs up, does something, and then vanishes faster than a Hoskin Elliott. Should we be persevering with Chris Mayne? He cost us a couple of goals in that game. Some of his ball usage in that is good, but still, I think the game is also, he's just not quick enough for it. Well, Oscar Allen, who's about 6'11", chased him down, which tells you something in terms of his speed, and he tends to be one of those players who, we've always said this, he'll sacrifice his body. Defensively, he's a fantastic player, but offensively, he's very safe. There'll always be that little handball to the side, or the little kick to the side. He doesn't often go for that game-opening disposal, which will allow us to run. And in terms of who we have in our team, there's too few of those players who do that. I mean, Pendlebury will often do it. He'll try and find that possession that's just going to break it open. Quaynor? Lively. Good. You think he should be on the wing? Yes. Okay, well, that was a quick question. I think he's easily, at the moment, can be stopped with those defensive runs. Linking up on the wing, he could deliver the ball into the forward line quicker, and he's a good kick. Oh, this is what goes back to what we were saying last week, is put your best players around the ball. Dacos, Quaynor. Let me ask you a question, or actually, let me read you something that we got to our Facebook page. Don't want to say who it's from. Okay. The best idea is to let the coach. Support him as he has supported the club for years. For he's nothing more disturbing and upsetting for a player to hear bad banter. I don't do bad banter. And know-it-all jokes. And know-it-all supporters thinking they know better. Oh, that's you. Should point out that he spells no both times N-O. Everything will work out in time, whether it means a new coach or more trade deals. To all those loyal supporters, let's actually support the team, the coaching staff, the head coaches, all players, and most of all,
for Collingwood Football
Was
Club.
that awful?
Can we criticise the club and the coaches?
Fucking oath we can.
And can I ask this person if he's watching? Because I don't know. I mean, he obviously hates us, so I don't know why he'd watch.
I'd watch as if I'd hate us, if we hated us.
I hope he sent this to Mick McGuan and Matt Rendell also, and to Mark Robinson, and pretty much Gary Lyon, Nick Rewalt, pretty much the entire footballing public. So, can you criticise?
Absolutely, and this is a lot of the problem with the club and the supporter base, and then this is what the club's been leveraging off for years. I mean, I don't know this person, and he could be a wonderful person, all that sort of stuff, but I think he's also representative of a lot of the supporter base is, and they're just accepting of everything. It doesn't matter how the club perform, it doesn't matter what they do, it doesn't matter what they fuck up, as long as you link arms and sing the club song, everything will be wonderful in the world. And you get that in all sport. There are people that just don't really want to go into the nitty-gritty of things. They don't want to understand. They just want to get out there and cheer the boys or the girls on and go home and have a good old bovril in front of Coronation Street or whatever it is they do for entertainment. For me, that's just not good enough anymore. I need to challenge the club. I need to be vocal. I need to say what it is that's on my mind, because it just keeps looking like the club isn't listening, even though they're not saying much at the moment. Maybe they are listening because things happened on the weekend that sounded like they're listening. But no, I can't buy that stuff.
I wrote a long response to this, and you said don't bother sending it because, you know. But
It's my fault. Is that what you're saying?
no. I think I hate about I'm going to go into a few of these supporters. The thing I hate about this philosophy is everything will work out in time. So what's in time mean? Does it mean this year, next year, 10 years, 20 years, 25 years,
140 years now when we're all dead.
Because football clubs, not just talking about Collingwood, football clubs have been shown to make bad decisions or back bad decisions. And for them to follow that to the club's implosion and detriment, when you think, okay, if someone made a hard decision a little bit earlier, we could have avoided all that heartbreak. So what's in timing? Does it just mean just follow blindly, which apparently it does? And whether it's fixed this year or in 100 years, in time, things will be okay. On Twitter, you see supporters, these sort of supporters, back the club. And I recall going into the previous game against GWS when people were complaining, okay, we're not playing enough youth. And I remember one guy, who I won't name, who said, oh, if it was up to you, like everyone complaining, the team would be full of nothing but 18-year-olds. And it's like, well, I'm pretty sure people were just saying, let's play some youth, not let's drop all players over 19 and bring in 22 18-year-olds. And I recall another guy, countering the criticism of the club by saying, everyone here's talking like we should win every flag since 2012. We should have won every flag since then. It's like, well, okay, because that happens, AFL teams win 9 flags in a row. They go to extremes to try and push a point by portraying the opposition as being totally unreasonable and asking for irrational things. So the reality is, most opposition is pointing out things critically and constructively, and the only way these people have a leg to stand on is to totally fucking fictionalise what these people are saying. I'm not saying there's not trolls, because we know there's trolls out there, but a lot of people right now are talking about the club, and they're voicing their concerns eloquently and constructively, and they are speaking from a good place rather than, I'm just going to bash the club for the sake of bashing the club. We're 10 years into this tenure. This year it's massively fallen apart, which it was obviously going to do. Given what was happening at the club, it was obviously, going to fall apart. I'm still shocked that people thought, well, we'll be a top 4 prospect. It's like, based on what? You have now 4 injuries to senior players, and you're exposing kids who've played 0 games. Why would you think we're going to be sailing pretty? So that really frustrates me with those supporters, that you can't actually voice anything because any form of criticism is just seen as treachery.
And that's it. I mean, and I don't think you sit there and think that anyone that you listen to is an absolute know-it-all. It's expressing an opinion.
I know it all.
Now, you formulate what you think is the reason why something happens. You do it through observation. You do it through your own internal assessment and how it makes you feel. And then you come up with a supposition and then you talk about it. I just don't think you'd be benefiting anyone just to sit here and go, boo, rah, rah, we had the most premiership ones. Let's just let things happen. It's you just can't do that.
No, and the reality is that clubs have passed us. We're third on the premiership table. I don't know where we're on the membership table, but I know Richmond's past us, so we're not top there anymore. And we're still hanging on like, hey, we're a fantastic club in the modern era, a club with fantastic history. We're not a fantastically successful club right now. What do you think?
The thing is too, just on that, I didn't enjoy the dour look at the club that I love. I want them to be great again. I want them to be competitive. I don't want to go through any more, and I'm sure it will happen though, fucking losing grand finals. I'm sick of getting there easily and then falling over when it matters. They've got to build something that just works and works for a sustained period before I die.
You know, okay, this is the big criticism I have of this club right now. Every club that's going to have a decline, like Richmond will have a decline, because they've put together this list to contend. While they're contending, they're not getting access to top draft picks. Obviously, they can bring in top-ups and all that sort of stuff, but at some point, you're going to lose, you know, the Cotchins, the Martins, the Rewalts, and they're pretty much irreplaceable. And you'll drop. It happened to Hawthorn. It didn't entirely happen to Geelong, but they've never really been a genuine powerhouse since the era which won 3 flags. You know, it happened to Brisbane after they won 3 flags. Every team will put together, or every club will put together a list for a period of contention. Even clubs like Bulldogs who never won one, and St Kilda who never won one during the mid-2000s to, you know, early 2010s. They were playing in prelims constantly. They put together this list, and it was like, we're going to contend over a prolonged period with this list. And then at a certain point, that list is going to age. You didn't have access to the young talent, so you are going to drop. Happens all the time. And that's unavoidable. Mm-hmm. We have twice preempted that by, after the 210-211 squads, we traded out players, we gutted the list, we brought in players that didn't work, we drafted players who didn't work, and we just nosedived really quickly. When you would have thought that, hey, that list should have at least 3-4 more years of contention, and I actually think that's been pretty conservative.
Oh, it was so young.
Yep. And you go to 218, you think, okay, we're going to be up here for a little while, we're going to contend for the next 5 years. Within 2 years, they're already on decline because they've fucked up their systems again. And then at the end of those 2 years, they've gutted the list.
Yeah.
And now they're back at the bottom. So 2 times when they should have had prolonged periods of contention, they just messed it up. And this is what really annoys me. I still find it indefensible what they did at the trade, and people say get over it. It's like, well, no. Because you know what? You've got 3 constant reminders now of players who are out there every week and going into ex-player watch. Bulldogs defeated...
There's a segue.
Yep. Bulldogs defeated Suns by 62 points. Treloar, 14 kicks, 12 handballs, 4 tackles. He kicked 2-1. 77% disposal efficiency.
But he can't kick.
He can't kick.
He can't kick.
And I was having this conversation with someone else. I'm not saying it's like he's a Buckley-like kick. But the way he was being used at Collingwood, where he was always at the coalface, and he was getting the ball, and the first thing you had to do was like pressure. You had to like just quickly snap it out. So they're just like a lot of times panic kicks. You watch when he's playing at the Bulldogs; they're often getting him on the outside, to
exactly.
link,
Yep.
which we were calling for Buckley to do for ever. You know, for over 2 years. He now looks like the player that we wanted, but instead, again, it goes back to the way Buckley defines roles at the club. He's playing players in ways that it's actually depreciating their talents and exploiting their weaknesses. Melbourne defeated Hawthorn by 50 points. Phillips, 7 kicks, 7 handballs, 3 tackles. He had, I can't remember what the disposal efficiency last week was in the 40s. It was terrible. This week, 93% disposal efficiency. Geelong defeated North by 30 points. Stevenson, 14 kicks, 2 handballs, 2 tackles. He kicked 2-1 at 62% disposal efficiency. The thing I find most ironic is what we saw in that first quarter against West Coast, that running game. Outside of Pendlebury and Adams, Buckley and the club, I shouldn't just blame Buckley single-handedly, they got rid of the 3 players who are probably the most important players to that midfield engine, outside of Pendlebury, who's just in a class of his own, and Adams, who's the only terrier in that side. Treloar shows he has that dash. He would have been perfect to play that line breaking. Stevenson would have been perfect to groom into that line breaking sort of role. Phillips was an elite runner who they turned into a dour defensive half forward. And it's like, well, okay, hey, why are you surprised the way you use these guys that they didn't perform to the level you want them to perform? Compared to, like, if you use them the way they should have been used, they would have been such benefits to the side. And I also think the way Collingwood plays, that real dour, chippy, congested football, it's not actually conducive to precise disposal. You look at even Pendlebury's numbers, I shouldn't say frequently, but if you look at his disposal efficiency, it's not always great. And it's because we play that really packed football where we're just kicking to contest constantly. Whereas the Dogs have got this running game going and everyone suddenly looks good. And if you've got this running game going, like if you're in 40 metres away, I just have to kick it in your vicinity. You'll run to it if it's 1 or 2 metres away. Playing the way Buckley plays, when you're trying to pinpoint one guy between 5 opponents, if you're off by a metre, that's it. You're fucked. So I just find it really infuriating that you got rid of it. Not Buckley specifically, but the club fucked this up to this extent. They can still sell it as a list rejuvenation. But hey, these players are showing under better systems, they're thriving. So who's the indictable one here? It's certainly not, the players. Collingwood's going to sign Singhalese ruck prospect Bassaro Faya. I'm sorry if I've mispronounced that. 18. He's committed to the Pies International Rookie Sponsorship. Athletic 202 ruck prospect. Impressed in summer trials of NAB League Club Oakley Chargers. Training alongside Collingwood father-son in waiting, a potential 2021 number 1 pick, Nick Dagos. Faye impressed Pie recruiters who acted swiftly to secure his signature.
Good on him.
Oh, that solved everything. I take everything back.
He's over in Senegal now, I believe, and waiting to get permission to come back. So he should be a good asset. Look, they're Hail Mary selections at the best of times. It's worth trying, isn't it?
No.
I'm trying to put some sort of positive spin
Oh,
on
it's worth trying. I mean,
Well, what do international rookies cost you? Collingwood about
$800,000
in about 3 years' time.
Yeah. Martin Clark is now king of Ireland. Just left Collingwood and went, bought a castle in Ireland. Is now like the king there.
That's Castle, actually.
Ah, well.
All for it. I don't think it costs anything. Good on him. Good luck to him. Good. What's his name?
Bassaro Faye.
Can't we just call him Basil?
I don't know. You've been a big advocate of you feel the players or Buckley's lost the players.
Yep.
Tom Morris wrote an article and Chris Young also wrote an article.
Oh, I'm in the steam company.
Tom Morris, his article read like he'd read the message boards and just summarised everything he said. And Chris Young...
Just badly.
Yeah, Chris Young wrote an article saying some players were perplexed by Treloar's exit with what Morris called the "we don't want you" mantra central to their concerns. So they're saying like this player's tired of Buckley, and this was flagged last year as it was unfolding, that Buckley had thrown this leadership group under a bus in saying, well, they're saying they don't want Treloar. Treloar's going, no, that's not what they're telling me.
Yeah, I definitely think that there's an element of broken trust there when that happens. If you've got the head of your coaching department misrepresenting the players and thinking this will never get out in public, that when it got out in public surely had some sort of detrimental effect on the way that they viewed each other. It just doesn't look happy at Collingwood at the moment. And that's just not on that level. Across the board because of all the cock-ups.
So was it a trade debacle?
I think it was.
Because Eddie Maguire would totally disagree.
What a complete shock.
So you saw that performance on the footy classified with
yep.
Sam McClure, and credit to Sam McClure who stood up to him and kept pushing. No, it was. And Eddie kept twisting it. Last year was a success because we beat West Coast in one final and then got smashed by Geelong. What a successful year that was. And Eddie just, typically way he came out with the swagger, very confrontational, just tried to shout down.
Over the top.
Yep.
Talking over the top.
Yep.
Yep, just like this.
And,
No.
And Sam McClure, again, credit to him because he kept giving it back. And then credit also to Matthew Lloyd. I think Matthew Lloyd, who's turning into a really good football analyst.
He tried to join in briefly.
But he tried to do it very calmly and he tried to de-escalate the situation. Because, Sam McClure didn't go out there and flame some. Eddie just went from, go to woe really, really quickly. Do you feel Maguire was justified in that insane, angry...
I think it really just highlighted a lot of the issues. Now that you're no longer part of that level of the club, to be speaking publicly in that way... and still reinforcing some of the delusions that the rest of us are struggling to see. It just reinforces about maybe your tunnel vision was just too focused on I don't want to say bluster, but let's call it bluster. I found it. There was one statement he made about you can't measure everything by premierships.
Yeah.
Well, no, actually you can. there are 16 clubs at the start of the year set out to
18.
make a profit. 18 clubs, sorry. Do they set out to make a profit? Do they set out to be good corporate citizens? I'm sure they do all these things, but what would be the number fucking one thing that they want to achieve at the end of the year?
Well, the one thing I always say is in 25 years, who remembers any of those things? Who's going to remember some bloody win against the West Coast in the final? But, I can tell you who was the Premier for the last 40 years. In the time I've been following, I could probably tell you who's been the Premier for the last, 20 years before I was born. I don't remember anything else. I don't remember profits. I don't remember good finals wins. I don't remember AA selections. I don't remember anything other than premierships, because that's what sport's about, is the top level, getting to the top and being the champion of whatever competition. I mean, it's not like, this is what makes guys like Roger Federer and Novak Djokovic and, Rafael Nadal so great, is they just go out and keep winning, and they want to keep winning. And it's like, if you want to be as good as them, then, you got to beat them. That's all it comes down to. For Collingwood, it's very little wonder they're not winning flags if the attitude internally is, well, it's not just about flags. It's like, if that's your fucking attitude, if Eddie is emblematic of that attitude, and this is funny, because he, 22 years ago, before, when he was making his talks to, become Collingwood president, he's quoted as saying, I think Collingwood accepts defeat too easily. It's like, well, that's changed, hasn't it? You're now rationalising it that it's not just about, in your time, you got to 4 grand finals, five grand finals, 6 including the draw, and you won 1. So, really, if that was me, I'd be going, well, that's not good enough. That's not the Collingwood I wanted to build. Really, you've just rebuilt the old Collingwood, which is the grand final losing one. And the attitude within that club has to change.
You don't, obviously, you can't go in there thinking that you're going to win the next 30 flags, as someone will probably try and point out to us. And you can celebrate, maybe celebrate, but at least acknowledge positives out of seasons. Celebrating failure, though, and anything that's not winning a flag for me is failing. Celebrating that type of thing and using it as a basis for justification of action is just doesn't ring true. Well, you can say, well, at least we're tracking in the right direction, or we're improving, or we're going to do this better. But you don't say, well, we got here and we did this, and there's 11 other clubs that would love to be in the same position as us. Sorry. Just doesn't cut it for me.
Well, you go back to Brendan Gale, Richmond CEO, 10 years ago, when he came out and said, by 2020 we won't have done this, and this. And what was in it is, like, I think he had 3 flags as a name. I can't remember exactly, but the premierships were up there. And obviously they looked at it as, we're tracking up, and then when we get to the top, we're going to be in that period of contention, and this is what we want to take away. And everyone laughed at him, but it's like, well, hang on, you've set the objective. Everyone's focused. Everyone knows where they're trying to get. Whereas with Collingwood, the objective must be, well, it doesn't really matter where you get, because every season there's a success in it. We can find success in it.
What's the same with Nick Maxwell came out and made the statement, I think, before the 2010 season, saying, we think we can win it this year, and he was laughed at.
Yeah.
But at least he said it. And if you say it and you believe it, and that's your focus and that's your goal, even though apparently it's not important.
Well, I don't know. I won't name who it is, but someone told us a little while ago, last year, that Collingwood used to shudder at the talk of premierships. They would.
Why would that be? I suppose people that get run over by tractors probably are fearful of them as well.
Yeah, but it's just like, hey, what are you in this business for then? Really?
Coming second. I was telling you about this, and it made me think about it when he was talking about it. I'm sure it was Visa. My memory is fading as I get older, not as old as you though. I'm sure it was a Visa or a MasterCard commercial, some credit card company. And it was just had this sort of footage of, I think it was an Olympic sprint. And it sort of focused in on the guy who finished second and said, oh, this is Barry Womble or whatever he was, blah, blah, blah. And you look at it and I'm going, I don't fucking know who that name is. And the caption then's come up, yes, nobody remembers who came second. And it's fucking true. You just don't go back and look over. You can recite who won a flag every year. You can generally say who they beat, but you don't care about who they beat all that much.
No.
You wish you were the club that won.
I grew up in the Tom Hafey era, so we played grand finals 2 in 77.
Oh, you're much older than me.
Prelim in 78, grand final in 79, 80 and 81. And back then they used to hand out a runners-up medal. So to younger viewers, the way the premiership players get their medals, previously, the runners-up would go through and get their medals first, and then the premiership players would go and get theirs. And that went on until Peter Moore, who was captain of Collingwood in 81, as soon as he got his runners-up medal, he just threw it into the crowd.
It hit me in the head. And that's when I had the idea for the flux capacitor.
But that was one of the... And I remember when I saw that, it was like, that's what I want to see. That's what I want to see.
Maybe they should reinstate that. Give everyone the runners-up medals and they can all take turns throwing it into the stand.
But that's what... And that's like that... I mean, it all went to shit for Collingwood typically anyway, but I thought, okay, that's what I want to see. I want to see someone who doesn't accept defeat. I don't want to see someone who's going to go, okay, that was good enough. I don't want to see fucking players laughing. I mean, I hate the modern game where after the siren you see players joking around with opposition. It's like, you're just trying to kill each other. How do you just switch it back straight back off? I want you to be focused on what you're doing and remain focused, and you know what, you can make friends in the off season. The Collingwood's focus going from the Maguire rant doesn't seem to be on flags. It seems to be on being good Samaritans,
Well, he did go off in that whole thing about the first to have the women's football team, the first to have the netball team, and it's wonderful to be diverse and be inclusive and all these other things. But you know, your core business is winning premierships.
Yeah.
And at the moment, until these other things grow to be big enough to be self-sustaining, our core focus is on that men's side to win a flag. I mean, the girls are getting close, and they gave it a good old crack the other week, but it's still predominantly, for me, about that element of Collingwood. That I want to be successful. I expect it every year. Every second year will be fine. But I expect it better than what my life with Collingwood has given me.
I don't expect it every year, every second year, but I expect when you're up there, hey, come away at least with a 50-50 return at the very least, and you're up there quite a bit. And I expect when you're up there, don't fuck it up by doing what you did 218, 210, 1990, and all that.
A part of this is there's that gravity well, which is Collingwood, that sucks everything in, is just collapsed in on itself. This is the perfect time to rebuild so many facets of that club and launch anew, and then readjust what your focuses and your goals are and live them properly. Don't repeat the mistakes of the past. I just see Collingwood as just this self-fulfilling loop. Oh, we're good. Oh, let's go back and do this again. Oh, the Bluster, we're a wonderful club. Oh, we've got so many flags. Oh, we've got the most members. We've lost all these bragging rights over the years. Well, what are we leading in, apart from the shits?
Runners up.
Yeah, well, that's it. I don't think anyone will ever counter the most losing grand finals. It's something to be proud of. So it's there's nothing much left. And, you know, again, and then I'm reharping what I've said a number of times. You go to kids' football matches and stuff these days, and training and whatnot, and geez, you can count the number of Collingwood jumpers on half an amputated finger. The rest of them are all wearing marks of the previous couple of decades of success, being Geelong, Hawthorn, Richmond. And if we're not careful, we're not going to... I think the club has relied so much on the fact that, we live the life of Collingwood, we raise kids to follow the same, and I think that is slowly disconnecting. And the club needs to do something to bring it all back in. And the same thing over and over again isn't it.
Well, I'm hoping whatever they do with the presidency that...
Well, they do at some point this year.
Yeah, but I'm just hoping whoever ends up in charge just does it totally different to what the last
absolutely.
20 years.
Yep.
And I hope they just, as students of history, and just look at Collingwood, because I'm so sick of having these conversations with people who think we are a present day great club. We're not. Again, we're a club with a great history, but in the present day, we're just one premiership ahead of St Kilda, where if you go back to when Bulldogs won theirs, we're equal with the Bulldogs on 2. Richmond has passed us in 5 years what we've done in the last 60. So, by the measure of flags, we haven't been a successful club over the last 60 years. And people who go, oh, well, it's not just about flags. Well, you're fucking wrong. It is. And there is nothing else you can point at other than flags, ultimately. And it's great.
Profit.
Yeah, and it's great to get profit and for players to get All Australian nominations and all that sort of stuff, but that happens regardless of Scott Pendlebury can get selected for an All Australian Guernsey whether we finish first or last. So really, I'm not going to hang my hat on those sort of accomplishments because they're going to happen irrespective. So I just want someone who's going to come in and go, you know what? The first thing I'm going to change is fixed terms for presidents and board members. It's going to be 8 years.
Minutes.
And this is what I want to achieve in the next 10 years. And you know what? If we achieve this in year 9 and 10, I won't be here because my time would be up. But I'll just be happy that I set this in motion so we can have a focus and get there. And that the new people coming in can pick up from there and keep that tunnel vision. And that's what they should do. But, I don't think they'll do it because they're Collingwood. Now we should go on to the traditional Anzac Day clash. This goes back 26 years. What do you think about the Anzac Day Guernseys for both clubs?
I can't split them. Could you have picked two more like designs? It must have come to a shock as Collingwood when they picked the predominantly black strip that Essendon were going to wear the predominantly black strip with the red poppies across the sash because they've never done that before. Now, obviously, from the back, things will look different. One of us will be wearing white shorts, I assume. But the front on, there was even a picture of Pendlebury and Heppel, I think it was. Well, who's captain of Essendon this week?
Heppel.
Is it Heppel? Was he in the picture? I can't remember.
Pretty sure it's
Yeah,
Heppel.
you've seen one Essendon support player. You've seen them all. So whoever he was standing next to, they were, the jumpers were fairly identical. Now, this could probably work for Collingwood too because we'll kick to anything. So we may actually hit, by accident, more of our own jumpers.
What I love is people who've ordered this jumper will not get it until April 30th.
That's COVID.
Well, because, you didn't know when Anzac Day was falling this year?
It's COVID.
It's a cop-out. That's what it is.
Oh, well, I think, they've been staggering the release of the fixture in 5-week blocks or something. So that was reasonable. But, geez, I think there was a better than average chance that Anzac Day was going ahead on Anzac Day.
Yeah.
That's probably the one exception you could have maybe planned a little bit better.
But the thing is, it's like, okay, unless there's going to be a massive meltdown in Victoria, Anzac Day is going to be an Anzac Day. If there is a massive meltdown in Victoria, then the date's going to be later. So you should be saying, we need it by 25th to be ready regardless. How you don't get that right from last year, I don't know, did Eddie Maguire take the jumper plans and people just look for them for 2 months?
Well, apparently the problem was that all they said was the 25th. They never stipulated what month.
Or year. Jeremy Howe's out with whatever he's out with, who knows?
Hamstring.
I don't believe
Collingwood
anything.
hamstring, that's season ending.
That's season ending. He had a corky in 2018 that kept him out for 10 weeks. The goalie's out with a busted nose and concussion. Levi Greenwood had delayed concussion.
He must have hit the banner a little bit too hard. They don't have banners at the moment though, but imagine if they did, he would have hit it a little bit too hard. That crepe paper can give you a severe whiplash.
Mark Keane is out for 1 week after Josh Kennedy kicked him with his heel. So who do you bring in now? Reserves had a win over Werribee.
Yep. And we know that because we just watched the goal highlights beforehand. I missed the stream, couldn't watch it live, though I did get some encouraging reports from friends out of it.
So likely Will Kelly might come in as defender.
So who are the outs going to be? You just said that. It's Howe,
Greenwood, De Goey and Keane.
So 4 changes.
At least.
And the super sub.
Yep, so likely Hoskin Elliott will come back in as a senior body.
Well, we can do this 2 ways. We can talk about what we'd like to see and we can talk about what's likely to happen.
It's probably still...
So the likely to happen will be Cox, Hoskin Elliott, who else can come in that normally would come in? Callum Brown would be the other one.
Yeah, look, I probably would still bring back Hoskin Elliott because...
You've got whipping boy?
You've got a handful of kids in there now, and I think with the bottom end of Collingwood, to which doesn't get enough possessions, and then you're going to add 4 total youngsters to McRae and McRae and McCreary. So McCreary's got 3 games, and McRae's got 1.
Yeah.
And then you add 4 debutants or 4 guys with under 10 games. I mean, Murphy might come back. But you're going to have 6 players with under 5 games. I think that's just really going to expose a soft under. But I don't think we're going to win anyway. But
well, I mean, Essendon
are relatively young themselves.
Yeah, so I mean, there's probably the one game where you can afford to to do that. And it is a big occasion, Anzac Day. To debut on there must make you walk a little bit taller. Look at Cox, he was walking 19 foot tall that day. I think you can maybe get away with 2 out of the 4 as being almost borderline debutants.
Yeah. So, I mean,
Kelly, I think, will come in.
Kelly will come in. I mean, what do you think they'll play more? Do you think, Buckley's gone on about, we need a bigger sampling?
I think the pressure or the instructions will dictate another week or 2 or more forward. No, I think he'll start forward.
Okay. And so they'll probably bring Kelly in to replace Keane, you'd imagine.
Yep.
And
because there's no other tall defenders, is there?
No.
Unless we get 2 guys in a steeple ladder.
And likely that they might bring Henry back as a small goal. I don't know, I'm just guessing now because
Poulter looked quite fast and looked to kick well in the highlights we saw. You couldn't do a bad thing by give him a run the middle, could you?
Well, this is what we talked about. So you have this list. Now it's been opened up by injuries. So Howe, De Goey, Elliott, Adams, Greenwood. So it's 5 senior players. Main must be very borderline in terms of... So then you have Main and Thomas. So you have... And Callum Brown's played about 50 games and has struggled. So even if you brought him back, he's probably still going to struggle. You have this really soft underbelly. And then the guys you're bringing in... there's no... in the reserves... There's no one who's, like a 40, 50, 60 game outside of Callum Brown who could come in and be plug and play outside of Hoskin Elliott also. But we have not pumped enough games into guys like Rantel and, even Murphy and all that. In the last 2 years, we're just stuck with the status quo, which now, I imagine people say, well, they weren't warranting selection, but at the time, we were playing serial underperformers who you could have just swapped and you probably wouldn't have really noticed much of a difference but got games in the young player. It's really going to expose our inexperience. And debuting on Anzac Day, great in terms of what a great way to debut, but it can also be overawing for certain players. So, I really don't know who they're going to bring in, but I don't really believe that under Buckley they're going to have a sustainably consistent game that's going to threaten Essendon.
So you think they'll win then?
I think Essendon will win by 27 points.
If
you have to think that long, you're thinking Essendon. You don't want this.
I think we'll rise to the occasion. We'll win, but not by much. 18 points.
Okay. Congratulations to Brianna Davey, MVP in the AFLW.
Are you going to read that article out that was listed today?
No. Check that out on our. We got it from Carlson.
And she plays in the mould of Darren Millen and Dan Swan.
Yeah.
And someone did some really good transcript on a particular Brianna Davey article out there on the interwebs.
Which is on our Facebook page.
Is it? Oh, yeah. Well, go look at our Facebook page. I didn't know we had one.
Yeah. So, any final thoughts?
What's Facebook?
It's where they listen to your thoughts and misdirect you.
Any further thoughts? No,
final
I guess
final
thoughts.
Further thoughts. Further thoughts.
Keep treading water pies. I don't know. Well, you can't say what you want to say.
Really?
In that, what you want the rest of the year to look like.
I can tell you what the rest of the year looks like.
Oh, I know, but you've got to get behind them. You've got to cheer them on.
Oh, you mean...
No bad debts. What debt was it? Bad... What are we? Bad rubbish? No bad...
Look, I'll say this about Collingwood. Even if I wanted them to have a disastrous year so results could force a change, even if that's what I wanted, it's going to happen anyway. I don't want it to happen.
You're right, let's celebrate it.
But it's happening, okay? So for people still out there going, oh yeah, we're just... And the people who sort of say stuff like, oh, we should have beaten Brisbane and we could have won against GWS if we did this.
That could have been a contender.
It's like, well, you didn't, okay? So deal with the reality, not, what didn't happen. So we're 1-4. After Essendon we play Gold Coast and North.
North, yeah.
But then we play Sydney and Port. So I think those Gold Coast North games, I think one of those is a danger. I think it'll be Gold Coast is a danger. we should win them both, but then Port and Sydney, I can't see us beating them both.
No, and it's back to reality. I mean, even if we manage to snag the X3 and the people that love rosemary and mint sauce start crowing a little bit louder, it's inevitable where this will probably go back to.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to put it simply, I've made my peace with the year. I'm not getting particularly angry at losses. Maybe for a couple of minutes. But this is it's now part of a bigger picture stuff. So losing these games doesn't particularly worry me. I mean, I want to see the right sort of personnel get out there. I want to see the development. I want to see some structural changes happen. Everything that's getting us prepped for the rebuild next year, or may come earlier.
Well, unless they go out and recruit another free 30-year-old. That's it from us. Leave comments here.
Down here on the floor?
Yep, on the floor.
Oh, good, we can read them down there.
Unfortunately, I don't always get to message board just because of...
laziness.
Yeah, pretty much. But, I will get the social media, so tweet us.
I only go to Facebook for cat videos.
Yeah, or tweet us or message us on Facebook. Like I said, unfortunately, the reality is I don't always get to the message boards just because of time restraints. But if I see something on social media, we'll definitely answer. I'm the one who does all the answering.
You're the head of social media.
Yeah.
When I work out what that is, I'll Twitter something.
Twitter something. Like us, subscribe, all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
Hopefully things get better, but
probably not.
This is, you know what this is like? This is like watching that first movie in the Disney Star Wars trilogy. And it was like, this is not going anywhere we want it to go. It's not going to end well.
That's a whole other ad.
Really? You should try it. Anyway, later.
Yeah, I was in the right ballpark.
Yeah, the right room.
See ya.